look at this coaching carousel, a couple of things really stick out. Number one, the money is insane. And the bubble is going to burst. I'm not going to cover all that. It's not happening anytime soon, so it's even pointless to talk about it. But I can't remember who said it last week, but I've loved the way it was phrased. I think it was on, somebody from The Athletic talking like Brad Logan on the Spirit or something. It was really good. He said, this is not the cycle to be buying or be in the shopper's market, because a lot of these schools are going to be selling doubles as if they're home runs. There aren't home runs in this cycle. There aren't. But also, I'm not sure that home runs exist anymore anyway. And some will say, LSU fans, Florida fans, well, Lane Kiffin would be a home run. Look, Lane's the hottest ticket right now. You think of Ole Miss as little Ole Miss. Imagine with LSU resources, Florida resources. Brian Kelly was 34-14 at LSU. 34-14. Lane is 51-18 or something like that at Ole Miss. 6 years. Ole Miss is going to have to pony up to pay him. I mean, there's not going to be anything that Ole Miss doesn't do to try to retain Lane Kiffin. Even secured a massive $1.7 billion. They've done this whole fundraising thing, man. They're going to do what they got to do to keep him.
Yeah.
But is it even more of a threat now for Lane to leave Ole Miss because of the LSU opening? Of course it is, because not because that Lane is the hottest candidate for these people, despite the fact 1-10 or 2-10 against top 25 now, because he went and beat Oklahoma. 2-11, I should say, in true road games. Big win for him. That's probably the most consequential win of his career to date, even more important than Georgia. And the timeline with the playoff, of Ole Miss in the playoff and how it lines up with these jobs is hard too. But he has some real warts on his resume, though. That's what I'm getting at. Last year was, by all accounts, a failure because you had the third most NFL draft picks and you lost 3 games, including Kentucky and Florida. Unforgivable was Kentucky. So it's not like Lane Kiffin is one at that level that LSU's and Florida's think that they can get back to with bringing them in as his head coach. But in this pool, he is by far the biggest fish because this pool isn't great. So, I think you could see insane volatility. If you still ask me today, hey, man, if you had to put a educated guess on what happens with Lane, well, still today I would say he signs a lucrative extension with Ole Miss. Number one, because if they're in the playoff, it's going to be really hard from a timeline standpoint for Florida and LSU to wait. Also, I don't know if LSU can afford, with that $100 million all-in cost, to get rid of Brian Kelly and his staff, on top of what you're going to have to pay Lane, who's probably inching closer and closer to around $13.5-14 million in average annual salary for a guy who hasn't gotten to the playoff, who hasn't won a championship. For him, he can wait out this cycle. Is it best to stay at your place? If you win a title this year, it's pointless to even talk about it. Where would he go? Even if he did go, Ole Miss fans would go, thank you for doing what we asked you to do. John Summerall, come on down. But John Summerall's going to have his pick. It could be Arkansas as his floor. LSU is going to come after him, talk to him. James Franklin would be absolutely disgusting at LSU, man. I think he would kill.
I was going to say, I think in all of this, the Lane obviously being at the top makes sense. All these other guys have somehow,
because he's not proven at what they think is
right.
their level, which is insane because Ole Miss has been performing at your level for 6 years.
Sure, it's because obviously these other guys have somehow failed expectations. Lane has only exceeded expectations,
but it's their own ridiculous, unrealistic expectations.
Right?
Sudu.
Well, of course.
If you're this year, without a doubt, was a disappointment for LSU.
100%. To me, the Brian Kelly firing makes 100% sense. It just wasn't a fit. It never felt right. He never felt like he was fully immersed in Louisiana and that culture and those people and that fan base. And you gotta be 100%. You gotta be. That one I'm not arguing about. I still feel weird about James Franklin getting fired for Penn State. I still think he's a great coach, and he didn't win a couple games, and we've said it multiple times, you're a touchdown away from being ranked number 1 in the country, and then you're fired 2 weeks after that. And things have gotten so bad down there that it's sad. It's truly, it is not Happy Valley right now.
And that's the long-winded point I was getting to without actually saying it. It's the considerations now, this is what Lane Kiffin's going to have to figure out. 3 years, 4 years is about all you got at LSU, Florida. You got to win your title. And even when you win your title, you better not fall down to 9 games, only 9 wins. Last year for Ole Miss was such a disappointment. The money's going to be the same. The timeline doesn't line up, personally. I know there's been some rumors about, family members are ready to move on. That's what I've heard a lot from people texting me. I do a podcast every week with Knox. Let's just say I don't see that. I don't get that impression.
Yeah.
And I was down there on the field after Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. I was there when Lane threw his visor into the thing. I knew he didn't say "I'm here to stay," but Ole Miss fans are, they're wanting to cling to something. For him, it would be ideal for Ole Miss fans if he came out and said, "Hey, I'm here to stay. Don't worry about all this. It's not going to happen." Number one, he's never had better earning potential than he does right now.
Yeah.
This is the hottest Lane Kiffin has ever been. And if Ole Miss can hold on to him through this cycle, build a statue already, he ain't going nowhere. But, Knox is just coming off his first start for Oxford High, won the game.
Shout out the alma mater, by the way, man.
Yeah.
Back-to-back comeback wins.
Led by Knox Kiffin. He's still got 2 years in high school. Landry's got 2 more years at Ole Miss. I think it's more of a realistic possibility that Whitweeks transfers to Ole Miss than for Lane to be the head coach. But I think they're going to come after him. And the considerations you have to take is, one, they're not going to put up with 9-3 as a disappointing year. And as much as you think you're the next guy, like Brian Kelly had no reason to think he wasn't going to go win at LSU, and he did. And still, he's out with $61 million in buyout. Maybe you're just trying to get the dream job and get the $61 million buyout. To that I say, bully for you, completely understand it. That's the dream. But for what Lane Kiffin has here, it's a much more difficult conversation. There's a greater likelihood today that Lane Kiffin isn't at Ole Miss next year than there was on Saturday after Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. But also, that win over Oklahoma was important for that specifically as well, because the timeline is really, if they're playing into a playoff in January, you got to keep winning. You got 3 losable games still: South Carolina, Florida, Mississippi State. But if you keep winning, you're in the playoff.
Yeah,
it's going to be really hard. But he's still going to get paid. He's still going to get his $13.5 to $14 million a year to reset the market, and then Kirby's going to come in and get 16 until the bubble.
I was going to say with
eventually bursts.
We mentioned it last week. That those numbers are just going to keep going.
But you have to consider all that stuff against the backdrop of look what's happened to Brian Kelly. Look what's happened. Like Billy Napier, he just blew his shot. But look at what Florida is, where it's at right now, or LSU, as far as hiring and firing coaches. I had the stats right in front of me. Let me pull it back up real quick. Hold on. The third coach they fired in 10 years, 34-14 was Brian Kelly at LSU. And you're telling me this toxic expectation and this toxic fan culture, both at LSU and Florida, a lot of it built on past history and the delusion of what actually is happening today. I completely understand why LSU, as I've been saying on this pod, was going to happen. Y'all need to watch Brian Kelly at LSU. The culture fit, that's what really did it more than anything. So the minute you gave him a reason to fire you. But still, the toxicity of these fan bases and the delusion for where the sport is in 2025, they better start appreciating other candidates too, because there is just as much a chance that Lane says, yeah, I like what I got here, and I'm winning at that level, and I don't have to deal with all that, and I got the money, and then he says, yeah, LSU, give me that challenge. Florida, give me that challenge, because at Florida, at LSU, he's just the next guy. At Ole Miss, he is the guy. If they get through this cycle with Lane still as the head coach, Buddy, build the statue. That's what's coming. Flipping the visor or throwing the clipboard, put it right in front of Vaught Hemingway Stadium. They might call it Vaught Kiffin Stadium, or at Kiffin Field. That's how big this is. This is Ole Miss's modern era Bear Bryant or your Nick Saban LSU. So remember when Nick left LSU, that was even when he went to Alabama, he was LSU Nick Saban, right? So are you thinking that Lane's going to be that guy for you that comes to your Alabama in this scenario, LSU, and does things better? Maybe. But I will say that, considering the toxicity of everything around your programs, yes, money matters, and Ole Miss is going to pay that money. The real question is you really want to give up that security in this world that has never been more impatient, never given less of a crap about your family situation, or all that matters for them is the baseline wins or losses. Those things are being considered. And if you as an LSU and Florida fan don't recognize that toxicity and how it's being used against you, then I'm sorry, you're in for some disappointment. But you need to really understand how good candidates like James Franklin are.